Over $250 million. I just want you to let that number sink in for a moment.
It's a staggering figure.
And it's the amount of money one A-list actor claimed he walked away from with a single fateful phone call way back in 2007. This wasn't just a missed paycheck. It was a fortune.
It's one of those legendary Hollywood what-if stories that's been making the rounds for years, but now that entire story has been turned on its head. And it's all being driven by the director himself, James Cameron.
Welcome to StarScope Report. We're your hosts, and this is where we uncover the Hollywood drama, the music industry shakeups, and all those viral scandals you've been hearing about.
From the red carpet surprises to the social media meltdowns, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And our mission today is to cut right through the noise on this one. We are getting into the legendary Matt Damon Avatar mistake, the bombshell counterclaim from James Cameron, and what the box office numbers for the brand new sequel, Avatar. Fire and Ash, tell us about the future of this entire $5.6 billion franchise.
And we'll get to the shock truth about that 10% profit deal Matt Damon says he turned down. And later, you won't believe the new movies that unexpectedly stole the spotlight from Pandora this Christmas.
Okay, let's start with this story that just refuses to die. The anatomy of a $250 million mistake.
Right. So this whole narrative has become like Hollywood gospel, and it comes from Matt Damon himself, who started telling this story in interviews around 2019.
The story is he was offered the lead role, Jake Sully, in the original 2009 Avatar.
But it wasn't just the role. The hook of the story, the thing that made everyone's jaw drop, was the deal.
Exactly. Damon claimed that James Cameron didn't just offer him a fee, he offered him a full 10% cut of the film's gross profits.
And let's just pause on that word, grace.
Yes.
Because in Hollywood, that is everything. Most actors, if they're lucky, get a piece of the net profit.
Which is, what's left after the studio deducts every imaginable cost, right?
Yeah.
The marketing, the production, the interest.
Sometimes even the coffee machine on set. Yeah. Net profit deals can often end up meaning absolutely nothing.
But a piece of the gross. That means you're getting paid from the very first dollar that comes in, before any of those deductions.
And when Avatar went on to make $2.92 billion worldwide, well, you can do the math. That's a payday of almost $300 million.
It's an insane, industry-shattering kind of deal. And Damon's reason for turning it down was his loyalty. He'd already committed to shooting the Bourne ultimatum.
He called it the dumbest thing an actor ever did in the history of acting, but he also framed it as the moral decision. He gave his word.
Which is a fantastic story for him. Makes him look incredibly principled.
It's great narrative.
But that narrative just got a massive, high-definition fact check from James Cameron.
Yeah. While he's out promoting the new sequel, Fire and Ash, he was asked about it by The Hollywood Reporter, and he did not hold back.
He just said it plainly, quote, he was never offered the part.
It's flat out. He clarified there was never a deal and that they never talked about the character. The whole thing ended simply because of the scheduling conflict with Bourne.
Cameron's take is that Damon sort of extrapolated the idea. Maybe he heard what a potential deal could have been, but it was never actually on the table.
But this is the most telling part. Cameron added that if giving Matt Damon 10% of the gross was the price to get him,
he said, the deal wouldn't have happened. Trust me on that.
And that tells you everything you need to know about James Cameron's philosophy.
Right.
He believes the movie is the star. The idea is the star. He cast Sam Worthington, who was a total unknown at the time, specifically to prove that point. The technology and the world of Pandora were the real draw, not a big-name actor.
And when you look at the franchise now, the first two films alone had grossed over $5.2 billion. If Damon actually had a 10% stake in this whole thing,
he'd be looking at over $500 million already.
It's just mind-boggling. So Cameron shutting this down so firmly is, it's him reasserting total control over the universe he built.
And speaking of monumental finances, that leads us right into the new reality for this franchise.
Let's talk about the $400 million risk. The big question. Did Pandora's domestic debut fall short?
So we have to start with the global picture, because globally, it's still a monster. Avatar. Fire and Ash opened to about $345 million worldwide in its first weekend.
Okay, so that's huge. That makes it the second biggest global opening of 2025, right? Just behind Zootopia 2.
Exactly, a behemoth. But you have to look at the split.
Okay.
Internationally, it was a powerhouse. $257 million. It did incredibly well in China, better than the previous films, actually. So the international appeal is still there, no question.
The domestic market. North America. That's where the red flag is.
A pretty big one, yeah.
Yeah.
It came in at $88 million for the opening weekend, and the low-end projections were $90 million. And here's the number that's causing all the debate. That $88 million is a 35% drop from what The Way of Water opened with back in 2022.
35%. That's a huge decline for the biggest movie market in the world. Is it? Is it Avatar fatigue?
That's the big debate among analysts right now. I mean, it's only been 3 years since the last one, not like the first gap, but the budget on this thing makes that number pretty worrying.
It was reportedly over $400 million to produce, right?
Yeah.
And that's before marketing.
Exactly. The rule of thumb is a movie needs to make 2, maybe 2.5 times its budget just to break even.
So for Fire and Ash, Cameron is staring down the barrel of needing, what, close to $1 billion just to get into the black?
Yeah.
That is an incredibly high bar.
It is, which is why Cameron's entire strategy is built on what the industry calls legs.
Meaning it doesn't have to be a massive opening weekend. It just needs to perform consistently for weeks and weeks.
Precisely. He's betting on the holiday corridor, Christmas, New Year's, all through January when there's not much competition. He needs people to keep coming back.
And is there any sign that they will?
Well, the word of mouth seems really strong. It got an A cinema score from audiences on opening night.
Okay, and for anyone listening, that's a huge deal. Cinema score measures how much people enjoyed the movie right after they saw it. And A is fantastic.
It is. It suggests the people who are seeing it love it, and they'll tell their friends. And the tech is still the main draw.
Reinforcing Cameron's whole philosophy.
Absolutely. 66% of the opening weekend money came from premium formats like IMAX, and over half came from 3D showings. People are paying top dollar for the full experience.
So this isn't just about one movie's success. This film has to do well enough to justify making parts 4 and 5, which are already in the works.
The pressure is immense. The fate of the entire saga is kind of riding on these next few weeks.
Which brings it a great point. What else was out there?
Yeah.
Because Fire and Ash definitely did not have the holiday box office all to itself.
Not even close. And that takes us right into the supporting players and the franchise's future. Hollywood proved again that smart counter-programming can really pay off.
So what were these other movies that managed to carve out a piece of the pie?
Well, the biggest surprise was probably Angel Studios' animated film, David.
The David and Goliath story.
That's the one. It opened to a massive $22.1 million domestically. It set a new record for their studio, even bigger than their last hit, Sound of Freedom.
So that captured a completely different audience. What about on the other end of the spectrum?
That's where the R-rated thriller The Housemaid came in. It's a Paul Feig movie with Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried, and it opened to a really strong $19 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and post-trap data showed that its audience was like 70% female. It proved there's a huge market for female-led thrillers during the holidays.
So you have these very different, very specific movies all pulling in big numbers. I think SpongeBob was in there too, right?
Yep. The SpongeBob movie grabbed another $16 million. So the key takeaway here is market fragmentation. Cameron is fighting against these niche hits that are all siphoning off audiences.
Still, the overall scope of the Avatar franchise is just undeniable. It's now the 14th highest-grossing film series ever.
And the plan is all laid out. Avatar 4 is scheduled for 2029, and here's a crazy fact. A third of it is already filmed.
Why so early?
Because there's a 6-year time jump in the plot, and they had to film the scenes with the young actors before they aged out of their roles.
That is some serious long-term planning. And what about Avatar 5?
That's set for 2031, and the rumor is that it will finally bring Neytiri, Jake Sully's Na'vi partner, to Earth.
Which would bring the whole saga full circle. It started with a human on Pandora and could end with a Na'vi on Earth.
And that all brings us back to the Matt Damon thing one last time.
It really solidifies Cameron's position, doesn't it?
Completely. The meticulous planning, casting an unknown in the lead, it's all designed to make sure you're focused on the world and the story. Giving 10% to a movie star would have undermined that entire principle.
So after shooting down this epic story, did Cameron at least offer him an olive branch?
He did, sort of. He said publicly he'd love to work with Matt Damon someday. He even joked about giving him a cameo in a future movie.
Let me guess.
So, the world is in equilibrium again.
Yeah.
But he joked, he doesn't get 10%, fuck that. So a pretty firm final word.
So here's what you really need to take away from this. We saw this massive viral Hollywood story, Matt Damon's legendary missed payday, get completely debunked by the director himself.
And at the same time, that director released a $400 million sequel that now has to rely entirely on word of mouth and premium tickets to justify its existence and the future of the whole saga. The financial drama around Avatar is almost as epic as the movies themselves.
That budget pressure is everything. You know, the $345 million global opening is huge, but for this movie, it's just the starting line.
It's a massive bet. If it stalls out here in the US, the pressure to rethink or maybe even cancel Avatar 4 and 5 will be enormous. This film's performance is basically a referendum on the next decade of James Cameron's career.
So despite all the success, Cameron has always said it's the spectacle, not the star, that people come for. But with the home market softening, you have to ask, can he still make the world care about Pandora enough to guarantee 2 more sequels? Or will the Avatar saga stop short of its final chapter?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, and we're going to see it answered over the next few weeks.
If you are loving these Hollywood twists and financial breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.